initial aerial phase of the Gulf War, a significant number of coalition aircraft flew through the Middle Eastern skies on a major mission into enemy territory. Iraqi radar systems became highly active upon detecting this movement. Within minutes, Mirage and MiG squadrons ascended to intercept the incoming aircraft. As they engaged, flashes of aircraft weaponry illuminated the skies. An Iraqi Mirage F1EQ identified a low-flying General Dynamics F-111. This American aircraft appeared vulnerable, setting the stage for a potential confrontation between these supersonic jets. Nevertheless, this aircraft wasn't a typical F-111. Instead, it was a Raven tactical electronic jamming plane, devoid of any weaponry. Positioned thousands of feet below other American fighter planes and lacking the means to retaliate, the crew had to rely on their sole advantage: an advanced array of electronic warfare tools. In preparation for the Gulf War, the U.S. military had wholeheartedly adopted electronic warfare as a strategy to confound and mislead enemy electronic systems while safeguarding their own forces against electronic and conventional threats. To fulfill this aim, the U.S. Air Force engaged Grumman in 1972 to transform 42 existing F-111As into specialized electronic warfare aircraft. The intention behind this new aircraft was to succeed the aging Douglas EB-66E destroyer, which had played a vital role in countering enemy radar technology during the Vietnam War. The U.S. Air Force aimed to enhance this concept by employing a contemporary supersonic aircraft, removing its weaponry, and outfitting it with an unparalleled array of electronic instruments and countermeasures. These capabilities were designed to actively interfere with enemy electronic operations on the battlefield. The new aircraft shared the same navigational system as the standard F-111, but it featured an upgraded AN/APQ-160 radar, mainly employed for ground mapping purposes. To fulfill its main role, the Raven was outfitted with the AN/ALQ-99E jamming system, which was an evolution of the Navy's ALQ-99 system, previously used on the Prowler aircraft. The Raven aircraft also made use of the ALR-62 countermeasures receiving system, which served as a radar homing and warning system. This cutting-edge equipment provided both defensive and offensive electronic warfare capabilities, catering to a diverse range of potential combat situations. However, despite its remarkable technology, the equipment was bulky and occupied a substantial amount of space. The Raven aircraft also incorporated the ALR-62 countermeasures receiving system as a radar homing and warning system. This advanced equipment provided both defensive and offensive electronic warfare solutions, covering a broad spectrum of potential combat scenarios. However, despite its impressive capabilities, the technology was cumbersome and occupied a substantial amount of space. Furthermore, the cockpit arrangement underwent a complete overhaul. The flight and navigation displays were repositioned to the pilot's side, and the flight controls, with the exception of the throttles, were removed from the other seat. This area was repurposed to accommodate the electronic warfare officer's instrumentation and controls. The outcome was a supersonic airborne electronic warfare platform crafted to safeguard American fighter aircraft by neutralizing radars and sensors well within enemy territory. Nonetheless, this achievement came with the drawback of lacking any inherent defensive capabilities, relying solely on escort from other fighter planes. Stepping into action. On the consequential date of January 17, 1991, Captains James Denton and Brent Brandini Brandon were assigned to pilot the F-111 Raven as part of a substantial air mission aimed at assessing Iraqi defenses in the area. The two aviators bore a significant burden, being tasked with the vital duty of safeguarding numerous coalition warplanes from Soviet-made surface-to-air missiles positioned across the terrain below. In order to fulfill their critical assignment, They would need to fly at perilously low altitudes, counting on the shielding provided by friendly F-15 Eagles and F-16 Fighting Falcons. These companion aircraft would need to thwart any enemy endeavors to engage the Raven while it carried out its electronic warfare operations. Upon entering enemy territory, Denton swiftly lowered the aircraft's altitude to a mere 1,000 feet. Simultaneously, the other aircraft in the coalition formation dispersed toward their respective objectives. The Raven promptly commenced its operations, effectively disrupting sensors and radars, preventing the enemy from accurately identifying the precise positions of the advancing coalition fighter planes. Yet the Iraqis sensed a disturbance, prompting numerous MiG and Mirage warplanes to swiftly take off from the runways to confront the intruders. Clash between Raven and Mirage, as the rival aircraft engaged in rapid and fierce aerial skirmishes over the expanse of the Middle Eastern desert. An F-15C pilot identified an Iraqi Mirage F1EQ supersonic fighter ascending in altitude. The American fighter promptly initiated pursuit of the target, and as the Iraqi pilot became aware of being pursued, he made a desperate attempt to launch a missile. The two aircraft then entered a sequence of intricate evasive maneuvers, engaging in intricate twists and turns, both striving to remain hidden from the adversary's sights. Nevertheless, the Iraqi pilot resorted to deploying flares and executed a sharp banking maneuver, momentarily eluding the pursuing F-15C. Regaining control after the tumultuous evasion, the Iraqi pilot managed to re-establish visual contact with the low-flying Raven aircraft. Accelerating with the intent to launch a missile strike, the Iraqi pilot aimed to incapacitate the Raven before the American aircraft could react to the imminent threat. Denton and Brandini remained oblivious to the adversary's actions. Engrossed in their crucial mission of safeguarding the entire coalition fleet engaged in operations nearby. It was the abrupt onset of blaring alarms and flashing lights on their instrument panel that alerted them to the fact that they were being targeted for a missile attack. Their ingrained training swiftly took over, prompting Denton to respond with evasive maneuvers on pure instinct. However, precisely as the Raven executed a sharp banking motion, the Mirage fired one of its two R-550 Magic air-to-air missiles at the American plane. Denton guided the Raven off its initial trajectory, while Brandon adeptly managed the countermeasures console, releasing a flurry of flares. The skillful combination of evasive tactics and flares effectively diverted the IR-guided heat-seeking missile from its intended trajectory, causing it to miss the Raven aircraft. With hearts racing and perspiration covering their brows, the American airmen let out a collective sigh of relief. However, the moment of respite proved to be brief, as the Mirage promptly reversed its course, determined to complete the mission it had initiated, a daring strategy. Just as the unarmed Raven was in the process of stabilizing from its prior intense evasion, the trailing Mirage reappeared and reacquired the American aircraft as its target. The Mirage unleashed another Magic AAM missile in the direction of the Raven, compelling Denton to execute yet another abrupt evasive maneuver that thrust both airmen forcefully back into their seats. Simultaneously, Brandon swiftly released another burst of flares, just as the missile raced toward them, and remarkably, the missile veered off course. By this point, the aggressor had expended all of its air-to-air missiles. However, growing increasingly frustrated and recognizing the absence of a coalition F-15 descending to intercept him, the pilot made the decision to draw nearer and eliminate the Raven by employing the aircraft's twin DIFA cannons. The predicament was dire for Denton and Brandini. Simply biding time for the arrival of the F-15 would expose them as vulnerable targets, susceptible to being torn apart by a barrage of 30mm shells. It was at this juncture that Denton conceived a shrewd strategy. Lacking conventional weaponry for defense, they possessed an electronic warfare powerhouse that held the potential to outmaneuver the Iraqi Mirage and gain the advantage. Denton made a sudden descent, swiftly decreasing their altitude. The Mirage pursued, readying its cannons for firing. In the midst of near-total darkness and almost zero visibility, the Raven leveled out mere dozens of feet above the ground. Utilizing the aircraft's built-in terrain-following radar, Brandon assumed the role of guiding Denton by relaying instructions based on the radar data. The American pilot adeptly maneuvered the aircraft, skillfully evading sand dunes and obstacles, all the while the pursuing Mirage trailed blindly. Seizing the moment and denying the Mirage pilot an opportunity to reassess, Denton aggressively pulled the control stick towards his chest and concurrently pushed the throttles forward. This action propelled the F-111 into a rapid supersonic ascent. The Raven's potent Pratt & Whitney TF-30 turbofans swiftly propelled it to supersonic velocity, causing it to abruptly vanish from the view of its pursuer. The combination of being fixated on the target and experiencing a momentary lapse in situational awareness within the darkness and low altitude became overwhelming for the Iraqi pilot. He was unable to respond swiftly enough to the Raven's formidable maneuver, leading to his defeat in this encounter. Subsequently, the Mirage careened into the desert terrain, breaking apart and generating an immense fireball that illuminated the surroundings beneath Denton and Brandon as they maintained their victorious supersonic climb. The two airmen experienced an overwhelming sense of relief. Despite refraining from firing any projectiles, they had successfully accomplished an unprecedented feat, securing the first-ever air-to-air kill by an F-111 Raven in its entire history of service. Due to the numerous observers who witnessed their courageous and adept performance on that January morning, Denton and Brandon were both bestowed with the Distinguished Flying Cross as recognition of their exceptional piloting abilities and valor. This accolade solidified their status as revered aviators, whose extraordinary accomplishments have been and will continue to be studied in flight academies throughout the United States, ensuring that their remarkable achievements endure as a source of inspiration for generations to come. Thank you for watching. If you're interested in exploring more daring military operations and the remarkable technologies that have reshaped entire conflicts, be sure to explore our other documentaries. We consistently release fresh content, so make sure to click the bell icon to receive notifications and stay connected for upcoming releases.